I have no clue. Okay. Okay. It tentatively says we're live. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Mickey Spear. I am a grief musician, author, and talk show host. As you can tell, tonight's format is a little different in the sense that my normal system crashed. And so I had to pivot really quickly. And so me and my wonderful Aunt Leanne are trying out Zoom really fast. So if you are watching live, please know we are doing our best to keep tabs on you and keep an eye on the comment section. So let's kick off the show with just that. If you are here watching, let us know. Give us a big hello in the comment section. And from there, if you don't mind, also let us know where you are calling in from. It's always fun to see where across the country people are, whether it's live or as a replay. Now I'm going to share my screen really fast. And again, here we go with trying new things. I just wanted to introduce the show a little bit as we go. So my name is Mickey Spear. We half hour or less or a little more each week to dive into healing our own wounds as well as learning how to help others with theirs. And this part is so important because I really believe my mission in life is to help the world love each other better. And why that is so important to me is when I was 13 years old, my mom passed away from cancer. And I spent the better part of a decade avoiding grief and pretending I was fine and not letting wonderful people like my wonderful Aunt Leanne into my life when they would ask and try to help because I just didn't know how to let people in, and I didn't know why it was so important to process grief and to let myself be changed by grief. Well, now that I know the power of processing emotions, that's my passion. And I also know people really didn't know how to help my family when we were going through that. So that's the show. We are so excited that you guys are here. And before I get to my wonderful aunt, I do have a couple of quick announcements. If you are on my email list, you might have seen this influencer opportunity. Long story short, I created this cute little journal called All Weather Welcome. I am a firm believer in journaling that has helped me so much on my grief journey, but also my anxiety journey, my self-esteem journey, which we talked about a couple weeks back, and so much more. So I created the All Weather Welcome journal. It's appropriate for all ages. It's just a blank journal that has lines on it that people can journal in it. And I just wanted to give a very special offer to those of you who are on my email list. And this kind of goes for anybody. You can still sign up, mickyspear.com. I believe my sister Anna is putting that in the chat feature. And if not, I will make sure I go back afterwards and get this. But for a limited time, I'm basically going to give it to anybody who wants it wholesale, as in I don't make a dime. But in exchange for that, so 40% off, all I ask is that you either promote it on your social media account or text the link to 5 friends once it goes live. So if you would like to do that, if you're like, ooh, I love journaling, I love good discounts, I like this, I want to support Mickey and help get the word out, please just send me a message. You just can respond to an email or message me on any platform. Say, hey, I'm interested, and I'll make sure you get that link. So again, you get that 40% off. And I'm only going to offer this for a couple for this week and then a day after the show next week too. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And then of course, after that point, it just bumps up to $8.99, and you can always just buy a copy then. And last, but certainly not least, last week on the show, we had Donna Matthews. She talked about how difficult it was that her sons, Tim and Oleg, will not make new memories. She gets to see, I guess, all of their friends graduate, get married, get their first job, move, all the stuff that she wished her sons could experience, but they won't. And that's a thing I hear from bereaved parents all the time. So, being that July is Bereaved Parents Month, I heard that and I said, you know what? I want to create something that bridges this gap. And I created 3 designs, but the wording is all the same. for these, what I call memory cards, where on the inside, it gives you an opportunity to share the priceless gift to a bereaved parent that they can then cut out and save. There's no other card that I'm aware of that has this format. And I know I've worked with a couple bereaved parents in creating these. So I just wanted to let you know, I'll talk a little bit more about this later on, but these are live now. I encourage you to check them out. I think we oftentimes feel so powerless in the face of grief. And this goes for all grief, not just parent or not just child loss. Anyone who's grieving probably would appreciate a new memory of that person. I know I sure would. I ask people all the time, what memories do you have of my mom? And I just hope this facilitates that. So be sure to check that out if at all possible. So that's the show. That's who I am. But that's not just why you guys are here. You want to know, who's this beautiful woman on the screen with me? So, Leanne, do you mind sharing who you are and the purpose for coming on the show today?
Of course. And I just want to say I'm so proud of Mickey, and it's such an honor to be here with her. And every week something new that she's created. So I'm just in awe of her creativity and honesty and passion that she's bringing to this show. So thank you, Mickey. But my name's Leanne. I'm Mickey's dad's older sister, and I'm not an expert on really anything. I just recently retired elementary teacher, but I have been kind of in a journey of my own for the last 25 years, actually, where I have had my oldest son who has struggled with addiction. And so Mickey and I were talking a few months ago about just the complicated layers that go with addiction and the grief that it can mean for families. And so we got to talking, and Mickey asked if I knew someone that would ever be willing to talk about it. And I said, well, I actually would be. And I think this is part of my grief journey, perhaps, is just to be able to share a bit about it. And I don't intend to judge or be bringing shame to anyone as I talk about this. My son has so much shame of his own, as I think people that struggle with addiction do. And so I would never, ever do anything to try to shame people or to make them feel less than they are. I don't think I'll say anything on the show tonight that I wouldn't mind that he would see if he watched it, because he and I've had many conversations about the consequences of actions. And over the years, in his sober times, when we've had really good conversations, we've talked in depth about these things. So I don't intend to say anything that I feel would be shaming. But I also think that sometimes hearing from another parent, if you yourself know someone or love someone who's struggling with addiction, it's sometimes good to know you're not alone. And also maybe you have a friend or family member who needs support, and maybe I can give you a few ideas too about what's been helpful to us over the years.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, you hit the nail on the head, Aunt Leanne, where we never want to shame anybody. We just want other people to hopefully have more awareness of what you have gone through, and perhaps give us some insights on how we can help too. Mm-hmm. So that way together we can make the world a kinder place for people who are struggling with addiction and for the family members and loved ones of them. So we are just so grateful that you are here. Thank you for your bravery. I guess let's just start at the beginning. Do you mind just kind of kicking off when you knew something was wrong?
No, I don't mind at all. So actually a week from today, my son, who is the oldest of 5 children, will turn 39. And when he was 14 was the first time that we realized he was kind of experimenting with some different chemicals. And it hasn't been a constant for 25 years, but it's been an off and on situation where we've gone through many, many different treatment opportunities. And he's had good moments and good months and even some good years in between. But sadly, the his drug of choice, which is methamphetamine, is a very, very powerful and very, very frightening drug that has a pull that seems to keep coming back to haunt him. And so throughout the 25-year period, we've just been on this kind of constant up and down roller coaster journey where we are hopeful and where he is hopeful and he is doing really well. And then something comes up again and it goes down the other direction, and then we start all over again. So yes, it's been a long haul, and I'll be perfectly honest that the last 2 years have been especially horrible. He has been on a really bad roll, but the good news is he's been in a new treatment program for 2 weeks, and so once again we are hopeful. And this is a year-long program, so if he stays with it and follows through with the commitment, it could mean a really marvelous turnaround for him. So we always have to have hope, right? That things can change and things can get better.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. When you are on those roller coasters, I think that's such a good thing for us to keep in mind, where it's addiction, as with a lot of things, is a lifelong conversation. And I think so many people who are not in that world assume it's one and done, like, you're healthy now, you're good now. So as a mom, when you saw him kind of have his first up but then have his first back down, is there any advice that you would give to a parent that's kind of starting to witness the roller coaster for the first time?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think it's a very hard one too, because first of all, I'm sure many people can relate to this. You feel like the rug's kind of been pulled out from under you because you didn't see it coming. He was just had very normal elementary years, and middle school seemed to be going okay. We weren't expecting it, so you don't really know how to react at first. And I guess a lot of people question how involved you should be when you see your child getting in trouble, because you kind of walk the fine line between enabling them and between helping them. And so it wasn't an easy thing at first. It wasn't an easy thing. We sought counseling right away for him, and that seemed to be helping for a while. And then when it was clear that wasn't really working out, then, we tried several different treatment programs, outpatient at first. And to be honest, the current treatment program that he's in is his 15th. So he has been through quite a number of various types of treatment programs. And when I say that, it's kind of shocking in a way, but I think one person who is himself in recovery told me there's never a wasted treatment program, because you learn strategies or you meet people, or it might just be the time when the things you learn, that the coping mechanisms, that time maybe will be the time it clicks. Yeah. So I don't think I don't regret that we did a lot to try to help him get into various programs. It was easier when he was young, because now that he's approaching his own middle age, he's very much on his own when it comes to finding programs and trying to get himself help. But in the early years, I would say we were very proactive and tried to fit, find programs and then take him to meetings, take him to support groups, take him to do a lot of things like that to try to help him get situated so it could be helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that insight. And as you were kind of starting to get help and starting to do all the treatments, obviously word got out, people know. Can you kind of give us a snapshot of what people perhaps did or said that wasn't really helpful, or perhaps just came from a total place of misunderstanding, and perhaps still now, but I'm sure especially early on, just so we know perhaps like some of the judgments that you felt, so we can make sure we don't do those things?
Yes, that was really difficult. And part of it is just people don't really know what to say. But I think that one of the probably least helpful things is when people really question like your parenting. And believe me, we weren't perfect parents or didn't do everything exactly right. But it isn't helpful to hear things like, well, you should be doing this or you should be doing that, or have you tried? Um, it's not that people are not well-meaning. And we kind of made some mistakes too in the beginning when we didn't realize how serious the problem was. Like I asked my parents to help, and he spent some time with them in the country, and one of my brothers and his wife were wonderful, and they took him to spend some time with them trying to just make inroads, and it was just not really fair of us to do that. But we just at that time were, it was such a shock, and we were so new to this whole process that I don't think it was really fair of us to do. But we were just grasping at straws of how to help him. And they were wonderful. They were loving and wonderful. But I think that probably as time has gone on and people have realized the severity maybe of the situation, or how hard it's been for everyone, they've just been very loving about it, and very much just will pray for you if you need anything. I think listening and praying and assuming maybe the best intentions from us and from the people that are talking to us about it. I think that everyone's intentions are good. So it's just kind of a thing about just being loving and supportive about it. But to be honest, one of the most helpful things that we found, and I'm hoping if there's other people out there that maybe are struggling with this, was when we would go to the parent support parts of treatment programs, they would bring the parents together. And really, we'd have hard conversations with counselors who were very tough at times. But it helped us to realize a couple things. And one of them was that this didn't mean we were complete failures, because every time it happened again, we would feel like, what are we doing wrong? What have we done that we should have done differently? But those kind of groups made us see a lot of other people in the same boat who were also very much trying to save their kid and loving in a loving way. And so it was helpful to be around those kind of supports. And also we had some firm talking to by counselors who would say, you can't put up with this behavior in your home. And that is actually one of probably my biggest regrets, is there were times when my husband would have been tougher and I was not strong enough to be tough, and I should have been. And there were times when my own other children probably felt unsafe because I was willing to allow my son some of his friends around that shouldn't have been around my other children. But my attitude at the time was, if I just knew where he was, if I just knew where they were, I could somehow help keep everybody safe. But it was misguided. It wasn't a good judgment call. And I think it caused a lot of pain to my other children, that I was putting his well-being maybe above theirs at times. And it's a very heartbreaking regret I have to this day, because I just hope they can forgive us and know that we were trying our hardest to save him. And we weren't ever thinking we were putting their safety in jeopardy, but at times they felt that we were.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I can only imagine all the truth that you just said. I feel like any other parent out there, or sibling or child of a parent going, through treatment, I'm sure they can relate to that, where it's just that delicate trying to figure it out, and hindsight's 2020, right? And you're just doing the best you can. So I so appreciate you sharing that and being vulnerable. As we kind of continue the story on, and we kind of move from earlier years to more, okay, wow, like this is a thing, and this is, number 8, number 7, as far as treatment goes. Were there things that you started to accept and learn about addiction that perhaps earlier version of you would have been wanting to know?
Yes. Yes, there were, I think the biggest thing about this disease, and I truly feel that it is a disease, many people are able to conquer it, but it's through incredible hard work.
Mhm.
And I think that I learned more about that, and that no matter how much everybody else did, if he didn't want to be sober or stay sober, there was no amount of work that other people could do to make it be successful for him. And the consequences of that have been just really harmed relationships, because people start to put up walls after they've been hurt by someone a lot of times, or when he would be doing well and kind of back in the family situation and back part of things, everybody would really try so hard, and then it would happen again and it was off the rails and people were being hurt and lied to, and there's the deception that goes along with addiction. And it was very painful for my family, because the ripple effects of it are just tremendous. It just
Mm.
keeps kind of happening. And then as my son had a child, then he suddenly had a son involved in this. And my son was sober for quite a few years while my grandson was little. But since then, when he has fallen from sobriety again, it has really caused a lot of harm to his ex-girlfriend and his son. And so I guess, I can't protect everybody from his behavior, I've learned. And I can't expect people to forgive and accept and do more than they are able to do. Everybody kind of has to find their path back
Mm.
to forgiveness and to a relationship in their own way and in their own time. So
Yeah.
I think I've learned I can't be controlling all this stuff. It is way out of my hands,
Right.
way out of my control.
And to kind of just like go off of that, I mean, this is, I know I'm preaching to the choir. For us on the outside, it's so easy for us to say, like, well, this is, he just has an addiction. I guess you just kind of have to just throw your hands up and walk away. But obviously, that's not our child, and that's not, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So, how have you been able to kind of find that balance of love and hope, like you mentioned earlier with the roller
Mhm.
coaster? But there is hope, you have to have hope, and a healthy boundary where, again, just like kind of relinquishing the control of having to do all those things.
Yes, that has been really difficult. I think that, like you said, when it's your child, or your parent or your brother or sister, you'll just about do anything. You don't forget who that person is. Like, you don't forget the little boy and the loving son and brother and uncle and dad. You don't forget those things about him. So you still see that and don't want the addiction to be the only thing you see. And so I think that I've grappled with that letting go part. It's been terrifying at times, because we've, had many calls and thought one of them might be that, he hasn't survived. And that kind of living in fear is probably the hardest thing of all. And I don't know, I can talk about it, and I can do many things to try to get ready for it, kind of. But in the end, you can't really prepare yourself for that kind of a tragedy. And so that's been my hardest thing, is just trying to know that if the worst happens, we've done everything we can to be supportive, but also that it's going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. But I have been going to Al-Anon, and that's something I'd recommend to people. It's like AA for a person who's struggling with sobriety or with drug addiction, but it's where the family can learn to
Mm.
not live constantly trying to change the person, but can live and make your own self stronger so that you are strong support for them without enabling them. And so
Oh.
Al-Anon, I know with the pandemic, a lot of it is on Zoom still, but people can find meetings on Zoom or in person, I'm sure, again. But that's been really helpful. And then I just think I've got a couple of people close to me who are in a similar situation, and that's been really helpful to talk with them, because then you kind of can bounce ideas off each other and also just say, you know, my heart's broken for you, but I'm going to pray my hardest. And we've had a lot of people come around us in prayer and just in support in that way. But I think it does kind of take other people who have experienced it to kind of share with them. And I would encourage people to find people that can maybe relate to you about it. And that's where Al-Anon's fantastic. But also if you don't know someone, but if you know people also, they can be a great support. I think the biggest thing, my husband and I were talking about it, it's just that guilt. And as parents, that guilt of what should we have done differently? What could we have done differently? And Al-Anon is a place that really, really supports the idea that this is a person's life and they're making choices of how they are living it. And while we can love them through it and love them as much as we can't save them. So I would recommend that for other people.
Thank you so much for sharing. There's such power in community. Absolutely. So Al-Anon, I will make sure I get that link out in my summary email. And as we, last question, because I know you've got a poem for us to read and I can't wait. There's so many griefs associated with addiction. Could you maybe share some? Because again, like when people think grief, they think death. But as we're learning on the show after episode, so much grief happens outside of death. So could you maybe give us an insight on what you or your fellow friends from Al-Anon have experienced as far as what grief has came with this process?
Yes, I think, again, not in meaning in any way to shame my son or anyone else, but I see the grief he has. Like, he's so sad about the way he is perceived by others, and he's caused a lot of pain, and I know that causes him great grief. I remember and know what a brilliant mind he has, and so I have a lot of grief about just the potential that is, hasn't been there met yet, but that still could be met, because I know he's such a smart person and has got so many talents. He's a fabulous pianist. He's a wonderful reader. He just has so many talents. So there's kind of that grief of that unrecognized potential. And I think the loss of relationship between his siblings, and the loss of relationship right now at the moment with his son, just the loss of relationship that his parents, that we have with him right now, and the lack of communication that we go through. So I'd say the grief is just such a loss of relationships. That's really hard.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I know as I'm listening, I'm thinking, how can I help? So before we go to your wonderful poem, and I can't wait to kind of wrap it up, is there any kind of like last words of wisdom for those of us who are on the outside looking in on how we can help a family who has a member struggling with addiction?
I guess the best way is just to love them, just to say, it looks like you're going through a lot. Do you want to talk about it? And maybe, we do kind of forget to ask about the wonderful parts about the person who is in addiction. So maybe just to remember, even talk about stories about them from that they remember. But I think just to say, I'm here if you need to talk, and I am holding you in my heart, and I'm praying for you and your family. And that has been very, very, very powerful, just to have people say, I one day I was really falling apart, and I texted one of my brothers and just said, "Can you talk?" And he called me within like 10 seconds. And it's just being available for people, I think, when you can be. It's just it's a very powerful thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. All love in, all judgment out. I think that is such a good
Mm.
reminder for all of us to not go in with, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? Instead, put on your listening ears. And again, like you mentioned earlier, assume good intention.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. So I would love to hear your poem as we
Yeah.
kind of wrap it up. So I'll let you kind of introduce that, and then we'll actually kind of close out the show from there.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, this last couple of years have been kind of off the charts as far as difficult on our son's journey. And we've been really, it's been just really hard. And in this winter, when things kind of were really bad, I was struggling big time, and probably more than I had been for a couple of years, just because it's like, oh my gosh, here we go again. But I was walking the dogs one winter morning, and some thoughts just kind of came to me, and I wrote them down and I sent it to my son, and he seemed to really love it, and said he kept it up at treatment on his wall and shared it with some people. And it was so much, it was for him, but it was also for me to know that I can't fix everything. So anyway, I'm just going to read it. And it just says, "To my son, not enough. The glitter of a falling snow crystal in sunlight, the calm of a fresh soft blanket, pure and spotless as far as you can see, the footprints of a puppy or a child's boots, it's not enough. The smell of a freshly bathed son's little body and hair snuggled in close, knowing you are his protector, the smiling eyes when he first sees you, not enough. The mom, lost in the conflict, not willing to let go of who she knows is inside, unable to sleep without one part of her brain trying to steady herself for the call or the knock, not enough. The dad, seeing his firstborn come into the world, astounded, pulling away to protect himself, reaching out, pulling back, not enough. The brother, the sisters, the confusion, the heartache, the sadness, the anger, the tears, not enough. The friend, the one who never gives up, the one who sees the vein of gold, the one who saves your life, not enough. You are enough. You have to be enough, or it will never be enough."
Wow, I feel like I'm at a poetry reading at a coffee shop. That was so beautiful, Leanne. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm gonna go back through and listen to that a couple of times.
Thank you. It just actually helped me to kind of let go a little bit of the fact that no matter what beauty or what love or what everything is around, that it has to come from deep within him to make the changes that have to happen.
Oh my gosh. And thank you so, we could have a whole nother hour about addiction and what it does to a body and all the judgments that we need to let go of with that. But we don't have time for that today. So I'm going to just kind of cut it there. We'll just have to have you back on another time. But thank you so much for being here. I love you dearly. And I am so proud of how brave you were today for sharing your story.
Thank you, Mickey. I love you. And thank you for letting me share my story.
Absolutely. Everybody in the comments, give Leanne a big thank you. Don't forget to sign up for my email list. We're going to have all the notes. We're going to have the link to Al-Anon. I'll probably type that poem up and put it in there too, just because it's so beautiful. And if you have any questions about the cards or the all-weather welcome opportunity, just shoot me a message and we'll go from there. I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.